We're streaming, we're recording, and we're coming to you live via Ustream.tv and Sports.com. I'm Michael Artsis alongside Darrell, Reid, and this is Sports Daily on the day of the NFL Draft 2011, when nobody knows what's going to happen for sure. The players have been allowed to go back to the facilities again, the lockout has completely and officially been obliterated, barring an appeal. But until that appeal goes through, there is no temporary restraining order, no reinstatement of the lockout. So there is no lockout, and players are turning and returning to their facilities. And the NFL is trying to draft players, but who will know if these teams will actually have the rights to these players? And that is because there is no union, there is no collective bargaining agreement, there is an NFLPA Players Association
Mike.
that
You
is
always
a trade
try
association.
You always try to bring in that fact, like who knows what's going to happen to these players that are drafted. The players that are drafted are going to go to their teams. It's not like any first rounder who's been drafted in the last 5 to 10 years has signed the day of the draft or before the draft, unless there was some pre-negotiations going on before the draft.
But can teams make trades tonight?
They can trade draft picks.
Can they trade? Can I trade a draft pick for a player I have?
Obviously not. Obviously
there
not.
are people saying that everybody should be a free agent.
That's not happening. There's no trades going on with players. You can trade picks, but you can't trade players. But obviously, any pick drafted tonight or going forward this weekend or tomorrow is going to be with that team that they were drafted by. The toughest thing is that no matter what happens with the lockout right now, it looks like tonight or if there's nothing decided before this weekend, before the draft is over, it looks like any player who isn't drafted will not be able to sign with a team. So all the free agents that the NFL has signed over these years and signed after the NFL draft, myself as well as a guy like Ryan Clark, the safety from the Pittsburgh Steelers, the guys like that will not be able to sign with a team, and I think that's going to be devastating for the NFL.
Well, it's going to be devastating for the players, too, who are going to have to wait longer to find out their fate. Eventually, they'll be in NFL, I would imagine, I presume, and I believe. But how long will it take, and what will happen to those guys? Because they'll even be further behind the 8 ball, and how will they sign? So there's a lot going on with that. There's a lot of miscommunication. We have a lot to talk about on our draft show tonight. Gene Fugit will be on our show. We will have Russell Fugit on our show. Dwight Freeney is going to be on the show. Raheem Brock. We've got a lot of other great guests lined up, and we'll get to the bottom of a lot of this. We'll talk about what's going on from the players' perspective, and that'll be right here on Sports.com and Ustream.tv. At 8 p.m. tonight to 10 p.m. and we might go long, D, because we're going rogue here at Sports.com.
We got to do what we got to do.
That is right. The
NFL draft is a big thing, so we got to cover it.
The number to call in, 347-480-1724. That's 347-480-1724. Tell Artie what you want to say, and he'll put you through. Or make fun of him. It doesn't matter.
We want to hear your opinions. We want to hear, whether you like about the topics we're talking about, whether you want to talk about a different topic or hear us talk about a different topic, whether we're talking about the topics you want to hear for long enough periods of time.
And I think you should reach us on Twitter as well, sports_media on Twitter. And that's sports_media. I'm Artsis Media, and you're Foots95.
So before we get into all that NFL talk, we're going to have a whole draft show tonight dedicated to the NFL draft, and we're going to talk about the lockout, and we're going to talk about who gets drafted and potential players and all of that tonight.
You want to talk about the NHL?
Now let's talk about the NHL. Sure.
All right. NHL-wise, I said that the Boston Bruins would beat the Montreal Canadiens.
You don't like Montreal.
I don't like Montreal.
He doesn't like their uniforms.
It took a little bit longer, but those Bruins did it, and I'm happy about that. They got the job done. Yeah, I remember the Bruins of a lot of people remember Bobby Orr and those old Bruins. I remember Joey Juneau.
If you were watching the show yesterday, you remember we were talking about the Habs, and the Habs are now out.
And the Habs are out. So the Habs are the have-nots.
The Habs are the have-nots.
So it'll be Boston versus Philadelphia. That's going to be a good series. It's the 2 seed versus the 3 seed. And I got to tell you something. I really despise Philadelphia, but I think they have the edge here. I think that they can dismantle the Bruins. I really do. Well, but the Bruins do have a really good goaltender who's hot, and that's important in the playoffs.
Just for the record, It looks like my Penguins, my boy Paulie Martin out there, the Pittsburgh Penguins, they lost to the Lightning. I'm upset about that. So looking forward, you got Washington and Tampa Bay, Philly and Boston, Vancouver and Nashville, San Jose and Detroit.
Yeah.
I don't care anything else about hockey for the year. All my boys are done.
You know what? It's bad for hockey because the only two teams.
Well, you got
or
Alex
three teams,
Ovechkin still in. So
the only
good
three
for
teams
hockey.
that people care about here are Philadelphia, Boston, and Washington. I don't, and maybe Detroit. So you know what? If you could have a conference finals,
Detroit.
you can't have it that way.
Detroit, people love Detroit.
People love Detroit.
Throw the octopus on
so
the ice.
let's adopt. I'm going to adopt Detroit then because.
You're going to adopt
Detroit in the West and Boston in the East because I like Boston. I played for the Bruins growing up. Not the Boston Bruins.
You played for the Bruins
Well,
growing
my
up?
team was the Bruins. So I'm going to root for the Bruins, and then I'm going to root for Detroit.
Mike,
and that's because I
and
despise
let me remind you
Philadelphia.
out there, Mike was not a professional, but
I never
he was
said I was.
very, very competitive.
Almost as competitive as you, D.
Almost.
All right, so nobody...
I'm gonna adopt Washington because of Alex
Okay.
Ovechkin. I want the best player on my team.
All
You
right,
know how that
who
goes.
are you going to take out of the West?
Out of the West, Vancouver, who you don't like. So I know you won't pick them. So I'll
so I
take
got
Washington and Vancouver.
And I got Detroit and Boston.
All
and
right.
hopefully Philly goes south real quick.
I don't like Philly. Philly put Buffalo out. I'm not happy with that. My boy Thomas Vanek was having a great series. Enough about hockey. Unless you call in and you want to hear more about hockey, 347.
I knew hockey wasn't going to last long.
480-1724. I mean, it is what it is. Teams
How about
lose,
that
teams
Durant?
win.
How about that Durant? You want to talk NBA? How about that Durant?
I mean, he carried his team last night, had 41 points, carried that Oklahoma City team to a victory. But as a whole, I like Oklahoma City. They're a scary team out west. I think they can play with anybody with Kendrick Perkins down low, as well as Sergi Ibaka, who's leading the playoffs in blocks right now.
They knock off a Nuggets team 4-1, a Nuggets team that's not very good, that's not considered very good, that kind of got a little bit of momentum after Carmelo left, had something to fight for, but in reality wasn't a playoff caliber team, wasn't a playoff team, made it to the playoffs, got a little buzz going, but they knocked them off 4-1 like they should. Is Oklahoma that good? Does it build Oklahoma's confidence, or is this the end of the road for Oklahoma?
No, I think Oklahoma went into this playoff series this year, 2011 playoffs alone, with a lot of confidence because they played the Los Angeles Lakers so tough last year in the first round matchup and took them to 6 games, six tough games for the Lakers to win. So I think the Thunder had a lot of confidence coming into these playoffs this year, and they're just going to ride that wave. And especially when you got a guy like Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and then you add Kendrick Perkins, Ibaka, and they make their own twin towers down there. 2 6'10" guys that can compete with the Lakers, compete with the Grizzlies if the Grizzlies win, or the San Antonio Spurs.
I just feel like Oklahoma can't win a championship in any sport. And they're
you're just talking about the city.
I feel like
you don't
Andy
like
should
their
get her gun.
uniforms. You don't like their uniforms.
Their uniforms don't bother me. It's Oklahoma,
You just don't like Oklahomians.
I didn't say I don't like Oklahoma. What sport have they won?
Well, it doesn't. I mean, college football, right?
Okay,
Oklahoma's
okay.
known for college
All right,
football.
well, I just think-
Oklahoma,
all right, we'll
Oklahoma
see,
State
we'll see.
is decent in basketball
Oklahoma
sometimes.
gets knocked off in the next round. That's what I have to say. And I'll be wrong because you think they can go further. So I'll be wrong. And
Well, they
and then
faced.
bet on what you say.
Before you say they're going to get knocked off,
Yeah.
let me tell you who they play next round. They play the winner of the Memphis San Antonio
Right.
series.
So
you don't think they can beat Memphis?
Well, if Memphis knocks off the Spurs, then no. And if the Spurs play, they could beat the Spurs because the Spurs are a very wounded team.
I think they could beat either one of those teams.
Look, I don't think so. I think the Grizzlies are a young team that is really handing it to the Spurs. If the Spurs come back to win that series, if the Spurs come back to win, I think they already are a wounded team. They will be that much more hurt. They'll be that much more worn out. Their confidence will be shot a little. I think Oklahoma could steal one. But Memphis, who I think is going to win the series at 3-2 right now, is a young team, will be inspired, will have a lot of confidence, especially beating that Spurs team.
Yeah, but they're a young team playing against another young team. So I think matchups,
think
even
Durant can carry his team, but carrying them all the way through the playoffs is hard.
I don't think he has to carry him. He has Westbrook. He has Kendrick Perkins, who already has the ring. He has defense. They play very good defense. You know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about the Denver Nuggets and where they go from here. After this Carmelo trade, you get Wilson Chandler. You get Gallinari. You get they got Raymond Felton. But what happens to this team? What happens? George Karl's been battling this illness for the last 2 years. What happens to this Denver Nuggets team? J.R. Smith, players like that. Do you keep this team together? Kenyon Martin? Do you just let this team? Do you start rebuilding? What are they going to do with this Nuggets team, and what's going to happen to them in their future?
Well, I think that this Nuggets team needs a little bit of rebuilding, a couple more pieces. But I think that they've got a good core. I mean, I think a lot of people looked at what the Knicks gave them and thought that the Knicks had a decent core to build on. So now the Nuggets have a decent core. They showed they've got some fight in them. They showed they've got some intensity and they want to win. So I think that what happens with the Nuggets is they're one or two pieces away from really becoming a contender out in the West. They need to gel. Maybe, if Karl gets healthy, then he can really work with these young players. If not, I mean, they've got a young team now. And if not, then you got to move on to the next coach and let them bring a new system in there and have everybody gel and work on bringing in the missing pieces of the puzzle. I think Kenyon Martin, who's I think is a very good player, is in the twilight of his career and could be a veteran leader on that team.
He is the veteran leader on that team. He's the captain, but. Do you stay with Kenyon Martin? Do you ship him out of there?
I think it depends.
He's got a big contract.
It depends on what you can get. I would keep Kenyon unless I can get something better for him. I don't just ship him out for nobody. Look, they made the playoffs this year. They showed that they can do that. They've got playoff experience for the young guys who didn't have playoff experience before, especially playing on that New York Knicks team. And now you can make a step forward.
Okay, what about their point guard situation? You got Raymond Felton, who played very well for the Knicks and came over and played well for the Nuggets. And then you got Ty Lawson, who's been playing out of his mind during the playoffs, hit 10 threes down the stretch of the regular season. So you got two potentially young starting point guards on your team.
This is always the tough question for GMs in any sport is you have a couple of young guys who have done really well, maybe better than expected. You have to figure out, are they going to continue to do better than expected, or do you deal them now when their value is the highest and get somebody who's a known property, somebody who is a known commodity, bring them in and allow them to run things, and maybe, or bring one of the, get rid of one of them, bring a guy who's a more veteran guy in and let the other guy learn. Now, you said he's been playing out of his mind, but Lawson's been playing out of his mind. The question is, can he continue to do that?
I think so.
And if he can, then as a general manager, you've got to decide, we got to keep him or we got to keep both of them. We got to see what they can do at least for another year.
I think it's going to be tough to keep both of them over.
But the problem, there's the flip side. If you keep the guy or the guys and they don't work out and they fall off, then their trade value is nothing. And look, I mean, you really do have a changing of the guard here in the Western Conference, and this is why I think Denver can succeed and excel in the next few seasons if they get a couple of pieces together and they gel and they regroup a little bit. You've got obviously you've got the LA Lakers struggling with the Hornets, okay? And the Lakers are going to win that series 3-2. But their players are getting older. They're in the twilight. Phil Jackson's leaving. That's it, right?
Hey, I think the Lakers, their dynasty. After Phil Jackson's out of there, I don't think they're going to be able to. I don't think Kobe can just win them on his own without Phil Jackson's
I would agree with that wholeheartedly,
leadership.
and I would agree with that wholeheartedly, and I think that's why Kobe insisted that Phil come back, even though Kobe didn't like Phil Jackson.
At the same time, Phil Jackson could be playing the card with all of us, and he could come back next year.
Look, Phil Jackson can do whatever he wants. Exactly. He's dating Jerry Buss's daughter.
I guess so.
But here's the thing. And plus, he could be playing the I want more money, or he's trying to get his team to win one. He could be, but you always are angling.
There's
for more,
always
right?
Psychological warfare going on.
And he could be angling to try and get his team to win one here. So but the Lakers, no matter what, the Lakers are on the downswing, right? They're on the backside of their championship
San Antonio,
and that's what I was going to say. San Antonio as well is clearly on the backside. So the two leaders in the Western Conference in the West Coast are really falling off, that leaves it as a wide open field. And you've got teams like Portland who are coming on. You've got Dallas who's doing well. Oklahoma.
Dallas is an older team.
Dallas is an older team too.
Oklahoma's young, Portland's young, Memphis is young.
But what I'm saying is wide open.
It's not wide open, but it's more open.
So the Nuggets can excel in the future, and I think that they should be proud of what they accomplished this year, especially after the trade that went down, and really most people had written them off and thought that that was the end of their season. So even getting to the playoffs should be a very big accomplishment for them, and they should be proud of themselves and hang their heads high.
Well, they were already in playoff contention. They had the 6th seed when they traded Carmelo.
Yeah.
They played well after trading Carmelo.
They could have easily lost every game. That's what everybody had said.
And that's where George Karl comes in. He's a great coach.
He is.
What do they do with a guy like J.R. Smith, who's never quite played to his full potential? You know, he's so streaky. Well, last night he goes out. You need this guy. You need his energy off the bench. He hits 2 big threes, but in the entire game he only had 8 points.
I think a guy like that's never going to come through for you when you need him. So you get rid of him and you find somebody who might not be as good a player, but is consistent, or somebody who's clutch.
He's a starter on most other teams.
See, I look for guys though who are clutch or who are playoff players. That means in a role like that, I need a guy who is going to come up for me in the clutch or turn it on in the playoffs, and not somebody who's going to be streaky, because then you never know what you're going to get. I'd rather somebody a little bit less talented who is going to be consistent, or somebody who I know I can count on in the clutch or in the playoffs to turn it on. And so for that, or when we have a big game and I go to him and say, look, I need a big night out of you. And because of that, I say you get rid of him. It's been enough time. And you cut your ties and you move on to the next thing, and he'll find a home somewhere. Like you said, he's a good basketball player.
And let's talk about the Spurs now. The Spurs, you said they're aging. They had a big overtime win last night against Memphis. They needed that game. They were down 3-1. Now it's 3-2. It goes back to Memphis.
Yeah.
Is Memphis going to be able to close out this series in Memphis, or do you think the Spurs can, that veteran leadership? They showed up big last night. 13 and 11 from Duncan.
Here's the thing.
33 big points from Ginobili, 24 from Parker. If that big three shows up like that, you think they can win 2 more games against Memphis?
I think the Spurs are a wounded duck right now. And I think that wounded duck is a dangerous wounded duck, right? If that wounded duck gets healthy, you're in trouble. So the Grizzlies have to put their finishing move on, right? They need to step on the gas pedal and get out of town. So the thing is, it's at home. They've got their crowd there. They've got to settle themselves in, settle themselves down, and they've got to play their game and win. And if they don't win tonight, it's going to be very difficult. Tomorrow night, rather. If they don't win, it's going to be very difficult in Game 7 against that Spurs team that knows that they can do this.
And the Spurs will be at home.
And the Spurs will be at home.
You said they're a wounded duck, and I believe they went into the series a wounded duck. Manu Ginobili was hurt going into that series. He didn't play early on, but last night he hits that big three to send the game into overtime. Well, not send the game into overtime. His foot ended up being on the line, but it was a big shot in the corner, to help his team. Gary Neal actually hit the 3 to send the game into overtime, but it really showed to me that Ginobili is back, and that he's fully healthy. And then you got contributions from the bench, 30 from the bench. I think when you get the big 3 of the Spurs to play like that, and their bench contributing like that, I think they can win 2 more games and hopefully move on. They're my pick. I need them to move on.
Well, here's the thing. I think the Spurs are talented, and when I say that they're on the decline, when they're if you look at their flow chart, when they've reached their peak and they're just teetering on that, I wanted to say after that, but it's a perfect time to make the point now, is that they are still going to be competitive not only in this series but in the future as well. It just means that they're not going to be the force to be reckoned with that they have been in the past.
And you don't think they can win it all this year?
I just I don't have that feeling for them this year that they're going to be the team to beat, that they can win it all. But they are always dangerous, and getting to the finals, they still might not win it all and get to the finals, but that still puts all these other teams in bad situations. I still think the Grizzlies are going to finish it off. I think they're a young team, they're eager, they're energetic, and they've got to stay focused and realize that this is their moment. And if they get past the Spurs, then they can concentrate on the next series, but they got to concentrate on the Spurs, win, and then worry about what happens after that. But I think if the Spurs win Game 6, they become a very dangerous team. It make it very hard to win Game 7 against the Spurs. And then, if you're Oklahoma, you don't want to face you don't want to face the Grizzlies, so you're going to be hoping for the Spurs. I think because again, they're still wounded. Coming back takes a lot out of a team.
Either team, whoever wins that matchup is going to be a tough matchup for Oklahoma City, and that'll be a great series. But I think that the veterans of the Spurs can really carry this team, and they really need to carry this team the next 2 games and get them and win this series, and then go ahead and face Oklahoma. This is definitely the most critical game of the series. Game 6 in Memphis. It's 3-2 right now. If the Spurs win, I think they'll go on to win the series. If Memphis wins, the series is over. And that's that.
All right, D, we've got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more NBA playoffs because there's a little bit more to get to. I want to ask you a question about the Lakers. Do you think the Lakers can handle the Hornets and handle their business, or are the Hornets going to give them a lot of trouble?
We'll talk a little bit about the Miami Heat, as well as have Ryan Clark on the show.
And we've got a whole lot more. And don't forget, our draft show is tonight, 8 p.m., live on sports.com and ustream.tv. This is Sports Daily. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome to Sports. My name is Greg Dorman, and this is Rally Notes.
Racing fans, don't forget that on Thursdays at 7 p.m., it's time for Rally Notes. Greg Dorman, rally racing co-driver from Klein Racing, hosts guests and takes your calls about the entire automotive industry, rally racing, and auto racing in general. Rally racing is a great sport. They have Subarus and all sorts of off-road, all-wheel drive vehicles that run through the mud and the backlogging roads. But he's not only talking rally, he'll talk all sorts of racing and automobiles as well. We'll test cars, we'll drive cars, and we'll have a lot of fun. Rally Notes, 7 p.m. on Thursday. Don't miss it.
Live on sports.com. I'm Peter Schwartz, and we're joined by one of the current.
If you want everything sports, you got to tune in to Schwartz on Sports. Tuesday nights at 8 p.m., Peter Schwartz, the esteemed broadcaster, takes on everything sports. He's got everything from high-end pro sports like the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball to alternative sports like extreme games, lacrosse, tennis, golf, and everything in between.
Joined by Minnesota Vikings Hall of Famer John Randall. Last year, you were inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and that is the biggest honor that a player can get bestowed on him. What was that feeling like when you were enshrined in that candidate?
It was unbelievable.
You got to check out Schwartz on Sports because there's nothing you know that he doesn't. He knows everything sports. So check it out, 8 p.m. on sports.com, Tuesdays.
Hello there, everybody. Welcome to the Warning Track. I'm Matt Mankiewicz.
If you could change one thing about the game today, what would it be?
Baseball fans, don't forget to check out the Warning Track Friday nights at 6 p.m. with Brett Quintine and Matt Mankiewicz. They'll take you through the MLB season, talk everything baseball, have great guests, and field your calls. It's 6 p.m. on Friday night. Don't miss it. The Warning Track. It's out of here.
Hi, welcome back. We were just talking about the NBA playoffs, and we're going to get back to that in just a few moments here on Sports Daily. This is Sports Daily. I'm Michael Artsis alongside Darrell Reid on sports.com, and we've got a special guest on the phone line. Ryan Clark is joining us from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ryan, how you doing, man?
Good. How you doing? You know, I talk NBA basketball too, man. I'm well-rounded now.
Sounds good, Ryan. We'll get into that actually before we're done. We'd love to talk to you about that. You went to the Steelers facility the other day when the lockout was first lifted. What happened when you went there?
Nothing much really. You know, we were able to get in and talk to the coaches and, you know, walk around a little bit, greet the people that you see on an everyday basis. You know, when you are at work, janitors and, you know, kitchen staff. But, you know, we weren't able to get into the locker room. Equipment guys weren't even there, actually. Strength coaches were told to stay at home. So I think it was just a move by the organization and by a lot of the owners of the teams that they were going to stand by that until, you know, the state was either rejected or accepted. And, that's what they chose to do. It wasn't much you can get done. It was cool to be able to get back in the building, but it wasn't much work that you can get done.
Ryan, Darrell, Reid, were you able to talk to any of the coaches there or anybody at the facility, the owners, GM, anybody up there?
Yeah, we met everybody. I saw everybody. Coach Tyler actually opened the door for us. We sat in the cafeteria and talked for a little while. I met my new defensive back coach, Cornell Lake. We chopped it up, and, we talked a little bit just about the season and, how he, I was just trying to tell him we have a very good room. It's a bunch of good guys. Also talked to Mr. Rooney. Our Rooney came down and, he shook our hands and, asked us if we needed anything, told us his door was open, if we wanted to talk, because obviously it was myself and Charlie Batch, who's part of the executive committee for the players. And so we just went with that, and, we talked, chatted a little bit. Wasn't much to be said. Clearly, we couldn't hash out and negotiate a deal right there. He went upstairs, and we went about our way.
Was it frustrating at all, Ryan, that you couldn't get any work done at work? That you went there, that you went to the facility, and that you couldn't touch the equipment, you couldn't lift weights, you couldn't work with the strength and conditioning coaches, you couldn't open playbooks, you couldn't do what you wanted to do? Was that frustrating?
You know what? I can't actually say I wanted to do anything. I can be honest. I can't say I went there with expectations of being able to actually get a lot of work done.
At least you're honest.
I'm going into my 10th year. Right now, I'm kind of on my own regimen. I know where I need to train. I know what I need to do. I think it was more upsetting and frustrating that you didn't have the option.
What about What about now? What's going on now with the fact that the judge has said, no, I'm not going to give you a temporary restraining order. I'm not going to institute the lockout back in place until the appeal is heard. The appeal is going to get heard, and until the appeal gets heard, what I said goes.
I think it's a good ruling, and I think it's the only ruling to make when you feel like illegal acts were being taken place. How can you say, yes, this act is illegal, but I'm going to let you do it until your appeal is heard if you truly believe it is against the law? So I think that was kind of what I expected and hoped for, but you just never know with these types of decisions. Also, on the other side of that, now something has to get done. They had to figure out a way and figure out a plan, a way of moving on, because with the lockout being lifted, free agency should start. You should be able to train. You should be able to be coached.
Exactly.
And this is around the time that these things should be happening. And if these things aren't happening, you're clearly going against the ruling of the judge.
And talking to Coach Tomlin and the owner, Mr. Rooney, up there, did you get any feeling that anything was going to change anytime soon?
Not sure. I truly believe the owners expected to get the stay. I think it was a big surprise for them to not get it. As far as Coach Tomlin was concerned, his big thing was, hey, if everybody's doing the same thing, I'm okay. His big thing was about, I don't want to fall behind.
Exactly.
I don't want other teams to have opportunities to practice, other teams allowing guys in the gym to work out if we're not going to do it. So I think that's really what he was focused on. And, other than that and aside from that, it wasn't really much talked about whether it would change or not, because everyone was truly waiting on if the temporary stay was granted.
Ryan, does this mean that you expect tomorrow everybody will go back to work and start reporting to their respective teams if they're not a free agent?
I'm not sure. Honestly, I think that's the decision that's going to be made by the owners. Will you accept this? Also, you got to look at each separate team. Now they have to put a game plan together for getting their players back in. It's not like a thing like they can say, okay, y'all come in, we have everything ready for you, ready to go, when they weren't expecting it. So it's going to be a big deal. It's not going to be chaos. They need to figure out which rules we're going to play under and how we're going to govern this upcoming season, and then we need to move on from there. I think what has happened is, it's been figured out for us.
Right.
We couldn't get to the table and hash it out. It's been figured out for us. Now it's time to move on.
At this point, going into the NFL draft, usually there's been a mini camp, an OTA, or something with the team by this point. How big of a difference is it this year with no mini camp, no OTAs, nothing going into the draft, and perhaps not after the draft?
It's huge. I think it's huge. It's always fun to come in the week after the draft and see your draft picks. It's always fun as a veteran to sit on the side and say, okay, we got us one here. This guy's going to be a player. you enjoy that. You look forward to that. Also, going into the draft, maybe you've had an OTA or maybe you've had a mini camp and you've seen, okay, yeah, we still need to improve here. Or this guy looks like he's losing a step. So I know as far as evaluations and evaluating your team is going to be a little different. But this is the monster we've created. And the thing about it is 32 teams have to play under the same roof. 32 teams are going through the same thing. So at least it's equality there. But a lot of teams, if you're the bottom of the barrel teams, if you're teams with new coaches, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle.
What do you make of this draft, Ryan? The draft is going on starting today. It'll go through the weekend, but there's so much chaos, so much up in the air. What do you make of the whole thing between being what it would be like to be a draft pick, and if you should show up in New York, to the whole draft and what happens afterwards?
I think you should. It's my opinion. If you're invited, you should go. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. These guys have worked so hard, played so hard throughout their careers in high school and college, the grind of the summer programs, making sure you're eligible, doing your schoolwork, keeping your nose clean. If you have an opportunity, if you've been blessed to be there, I say you go. I say you go, and I say you enjoy it. You shake the commissioner's hand. I mean, if you're the type of guy that's kind of like me, then you say, hey, why are you trying to lock us out? But other than that, you go on and keep on, and you take your picture, and you be excited about it because it's an amazing event. And as far as the draft still going on, I have no problem with that. It's part of the business, and especially if things are going the way that it is right now, we're going to play football.
So, Ryan, talk to me about not getting drafted. You weren't drafted. I wasn't drafted. I think you went to the New York Giants. I ended up going to the Indianapolis Colts as free agents after the draft. Apparently, the free agents will not be able to sign with teams. So after the draft, guys like me and yourself would not be able to sign with a team. How disheartening is that for guys?
It's very disheartening. It's very disheartening. You look at it in two ways, definitely. If we had a lockout that lasted, throughout this, that guys couldn't sign, couldn't do things, those guys don't give an opportunity to make a team. If the lockout is granted to stay, those guys never have a chance to get it in play. But now that we have this lockout lifted, if the NFL does this right and abides by the court order, these guys can't get picked up. These guys can't have a chance. They can't get mini camps. They can't get OTAs. They can't get opportunities to make these teams. It would be truly sad because there are gems in there, There are D. Reids, there are James Harrisons. These guys who come along and make great plays and have good careers in the NFL after being missed in the draft, and to take that opportunity away from them is really a sad thing. And that is why I think business as usual should start. That's what the court has ordered. There's no lockout, and give those guys a chance.
Ryan, I want to thank you very much for joining us on Sports.com and talking about the NFL lockout and what is going on with the latest in this situation. Of course, there is no lockout anymore, and I think by law you guys are allowed to go back to work.
Yes, sir. Well, you guys have a good one. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, Ryan, hold up. We want to talk to you about the NBA, man. We weren't letting you go.
I thought you were done, man.
No, we just done with the NFL talk,
just done with the
NFL
talk.
draft and lockout.
That was NFL sign-off.
Yeah.
Who do you like in the NBA right now that's left, and a couple teams have got knocked out? Hopefully not your team. Who do you like to win it? Or give me two teams from the East and the West.
I'm going Lakers and Celtics, man. I was Lakers and Bulls early. Carlos Boozer hasn't been showing up. He hasn't been providing them what I think they picked him up for and what Derrick Rose needs to get over the hump. I got the Celtics going to beat the Heat next series. I just don't think it's the year for the Heat. And I'm just a Laker fan. Okay. And even though, we play around, we had a little trouble with Oklahoma City last year in the first round. We're letting the Hornets play around. Chris Paul's playing great. But we're going to win this series, then run through the West, then we're going to run through the Celtics. Because we're the Lakers, we have the best closer in basketball, and that's what it is.
I mean, he is playing on a bum ankle. I don't know how he's going to perform the rest of the playoffs.
Well, you know how the greats do. Michael Jordan comes with the flu. He gets 38. Kobe Bryant has a sprained ankle. He goes 8 for 13, 19 points, 2 big dunks to spur his team on. Then he sits on the sideline and laughs as Andrew Bynum and Paul Gasol close it to a win. So I think he'll be fine. I think he's a gamer. He's a leader. He's a competitor. And I think that's why they play well. Oklahoma City is a scary team right now. I see those guys reaching the Western Conference Finals, and it's going to be a war.
Do you think that Oklahoma City with Durant, I asked Darrell this a few minutes ago, do you think that Oklahoma City with Durant can win? Because it seems like Durant is carrying that team, and as you get further into the playoffs, depending on one guy seems, especially in the NBA, so difficult, especially if that guy's not MJ.
Yeah, it's tough, but I think he can carry him. But they have a point guard who makes plays. I mean, you watched the game last week and see what last night and what Mbaka was able to do on the defensive end, whether it was altering shots, blocking shots, Durant with the big block towards the end of the game, and those guys, coming together as a team. Russell Westbrook settled down, shot 30 balls in Game 4, came back, understood running the team and getting the things done. Kendrick Perkins adding that defensive presence. I've never seen the guy smile in 6 years of watching him play basketball. And, he continues to bring that feistiness to the game. So I think they have other parts. But when you have a guy who's a scorer, when you have a guy who's a leader who can do the things he can at the end of the game, you always have a chance.
And what about Memphis? Do they have enough experience to put the Mortal Kombat finishing move on the Spurs, or are the Spurs going to bounce back?
I think they will. I mean, Greg Popovich's late game management was amazing. I think defensively they made some mistakes. You don't let that three get off. You don't give a top of the key three to a guy who's quietly hit some big shots late in the games this year. So I think they go back to Memphis with the crowd. With the way they've been playing at home, with the way Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol have controlled the paint, really making Tim Duncan look his age, I think they close out at 6.
And despite Miami having the big three, despite them coming together and looking like they gel as a team right now, you don't think they can come out the East?
I think you look at them. They played a team they were 3-0 against during the season. You have a team I think inferior in talent to them, which are teams they dominated all year. If you look at the top teams in the playoffs, the only team they have a winning record against is the Lakers, and they're 1-1 with the San Antonio Spurs, one blowout apiece. So I don't think they've had good track records against above 500 teams or elite teams in basketball. And the thing that Miami is going to have to do is play half-court offense against Boston. They're going to have to execute, find a way to deal with KG. And I think Paul Pierce and Ray Allen have always given LeBron tough challenges offensively. Chris Bosh feeds off of those guys, but I can't see him having that type of run against Kevin Garnett. So I really think Boston's a tough out for them.
Do you think that would be an amazing series, that might be the best series in the entire NBA playoffs, the Celtics Heat?
I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be very competitive. It's going to really be two teams that want to win, prove Boston with the intensity that they always bring to each game. So I'm excited to watch it. It's going to be contrasting styles, which is going to make for a very good series. But I think in the end, Doc Rivers' late game management and decision making will help Boston.
Ryan, before we let you go, I just want to talk to the people about some of the things that you've been doing in the community. You've had an extra long off season. Can you talk about some of the things that you do in the community and have been doing this off season?
Well, what's been big is working on starting my own foundation. It's going to be called People. Having all the meetings with tons of lawyers, figuring out the 501c3, and really just getting that started, which is going to be a foundation that focuses on empowers youth. With our ultimate goal is to have a building and start a mentorship program using guys like myself, D. Reid, and different guys who've been to the NFL, but who also come from the cities that are going through these different things, book drives, different conventions. Teaching kids everyday things that some from single family homes or from assisted living, things that they don't get. So that's going to be the focus. Obviously doing camps for the kid. I have my camp again this summer. Been going out and just visiting schools, talking to kids about not so much making grades, but about the life challenges and the things you need to learn to be a successful adult. So it's been fun, but also just teaching my own kids. Just being able to go to plays and go to soccer games, go to karate practice. So it's been a good off season for me.
Ryan, I'm looking forward to seeing your foundation and seeing what you do. It sounds terrific, and I know you're good friends with Darrell Reid here, but I know personally you're a class act. The last time you and I saw each other, you probably don't remember it, it was on the field after the AFC Championship game, and I interviewed you quickly for the New York Post, and you were all smiles, but you were such a class act, and And I got to tell you, congratulations on that. And hopefully the next time we talk, we can talk a little bit about the AFC Championship and the season you guys had, which was stellar last year, and stop talking lockout. But we'd love to have you in studio soon.
All right, thank you guys.
All right, thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Ryan Clark, one of the hardest pound-for-pound hitting players in the NFL ever.
Absolutely, and he's a phenomenal player. They've made rule changes because of him,
Safety for
because
the
he's so
Pittsburgh
good.
Steelers. Between him and his teammates, you got him.
It's an ugly defense.
James
You
Harrison.
do not want to face that defense.
Him, James Harrison, and Hines Ward. I think that's
And Palomalu. Don't forget about.
Well, no. Those three though. Those three.
Yeah.
Him, James Harrison, and Hines Ward are the reason the NFL changed the whole hitting rule and hitting defensive players, because those guys were murdering.
Well, they are. They're hard hitters there in Pittsburgh in Steel City.
Steel City. That's what they're known for.
That's what it is. We're going to take a break on Sports Daily, and I think we were going to talk a little bit more NBA, but I think we just exhausted
Just a little bit maybe about the Heat and,
and maybe the Magic, because we barely talked about the Magic.
I don't think the Magic are going to make it out the first round. But we'll be back. Sports Daily. Michael Artsis, Darrell, Reid. After this.
Welcome to Sports. My name is Greg Dorman, and this is Rally Notes.
Racing fans, don't forget that on Thursdays at 7 p.m., it's time for Rally Notes. Greg Dorman, rally racing co-driver from Klein Racing, hosts guests and takes your calls about the entire automotive industry, rally racing, and auto racing in general. Rally racing is a great sport. They have Subarus and all sorts of off-road, all-wheel drive vehicles that run through the mud and the backlogging roads. But he's not only talking rally, he'll talk all sorts of racing and automobiles as well. We'll test cars, we'll drive cars, and we'll have a lot of fun. Rally Notes, 7 p.m. on Thursday. Don't miss it.
Live on sports.com. I'm Peter Schwartz, and we're joined by one of the current.
If you want everything sports, you got to tune in to Schwartz on Sports. Tuesday nights at 8 p.m., Peter Schwartz, the esteemed broadcaster, takes on everything sports. He's got everything from high-end pro sports like the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball to alternative sports like extreme games, lacrosse, tennis, golf, and everything in between.
Joined by Minnesota Vikings Hall of Famer John Randall. Last year, you were inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and that is the biggest honor that a player can get bestowed on him. What was that feeling like when you were enshrined in that candidate?
It was unbelievable.
You got to check out Schwartz on Sports because there's nothing you know that he doesn't. He knows everything sports. So check it out, 8 p.m. on sports.com, Tuesdays.
So you think the Magic can't win?
I don't think the Magic can win. I don't think they're going to beat Atlanta. They're down 3-2 right now. I think they're going to lose that series. And
Well, I said one man can't carry a team, and I guess Howard is that one man.
he's Superman, though.
He is Superman,
Or
but
supposedly.
still.
Last game, he was not so super, though.
And certainly I don't think the Magic get out of the second round if they can beat Atlanta. I still think that they got a chance here, but you like Atlanta.
I like Atlanta. I liked Atlanta going into that series. If we go back to our old picks, you would,
Can Atlanta do any damage in the second round?
No, Atlanta's out second round.
So either way, this series is just, if you're a Magic fan or an Atlanta fan, enjoy it, and that's it.
Exactly. Enjoy the series. But back to the Miami game, and Miami.
Just like that. We're not even going to finish. That's it.
What?
Forget
What
it.
else
That's
are we
it.
going
There's
to
nothing
say?
else to talk
We
about.
got plenty of time to talk about the Magic. The series isn't over yet. The Miami and Philly series is over.
All right. Let's
over.
talk about it.
Miami wins 97-91 last night. We just talked a little bit about it with Ryan Clark on the phone. But my hat has to go off to the Philadelphia 76ers. Even though they lose this series
We're winning a
4-1,
game?
Listen, even though they lose this series 4-1, my hat goes off to them. Nobody thought they would be in the playoffs. Doug Collins, the coach out there, did a great job. And they're a young, energetic team, and they have a great nucleus going forward for 2011-2012 season. And I really just like that team and like the energy they played with, and like that they at least showed up for those games against Miami. And even last night's game, they showed up and gave the Heat all they could. They knew they were outmatched. They knew Miami was a more talented team than them, but they did what they could, and they played them tough.
How much in the playoffs is determined by matchup? And what I mean by that is, if the 76ers had played, let's say, Atlanta instead, would they have a better chance of not only surviving the first round, but surviving in the playoffs in general?
Well, anytime you win in the first round as a young team, you learn. They're not experienced in the playoffs. They had no playoff experience going into that game except for maybe Iguodala. So as a team, they don't have a lot of playoff experience, and any team that would help them in the second round if you can win that first round series, like a Chicago Bulls who don't have a lot of playoff experience. And then that kind of builds your confidence, builds the momentum going into the second round. So I think they would have been better off matchup-wise if they played against an Atlanta because of the size. Philly didn't have a lot of size, and I think that's what really hurt them against Miami.
Well, I think that Miami is still the team to beat in the East. I believed that for a while. I heard what Ryan Clark said, but I disagree. I think that the Celtics are a really good team. I think that will probably be the best series in the playoffs, Celtics versus the Miami Heat.
You should be proud of Philly, too. You thought they would get swept. They won a game. I'm
proud of that. I'm thrilled. I'm so ecstatic. I'm so happy for them. I think their future is so bright. They won a game. No, you know what? Like you, everything you said is true. They're a young team, and they're building something, and probably not for 2011 and 2012 because there might not be an NBA season, but for 2012, 2013, and even if there is an NBA season,
they're
building for the future.
They have a good young nucleus and a very good coach.
Yes, and they do, and they've proven that they now can win, and they defied the odds, and they just have to move along and not one more time in that underdog role is good, but you can't be the underdog forever. It serves a defeating purpose after a while. So it's good for them to be the underdog. They're good for the future, but and I am proud of what they accomplished. But I think that in reality they had no chance. And so even winning one game, yes, I did think they were going to get swept, and even winning one game was good for them, and they should be proud of it. And they should be proud of making the playoffs, and they should build on this and not be too discouraged that they lost here to a really, really good playoff-built Miami team.
Not really good playoff build. I wouldn't agree with any of that. But a very, very
I just
talented,
said it to get under your skin.
A very very talented Miami team. So let's talk about the Miami Celtics series.
Yeah.
Because that's obviously
I think it will be the best. No, all I was going to say, I don't want to talk about it. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about it. We're going to talk it to death. Today is NFL draft day, which we're going to get into in a minute.
That's later today.
But hold on a second.
We're going to have like 5 hours for the NFL draft, and I'm not even a fan. I wasn't drafted.
But you went to your first draft party.
Yeah, my first one, exactly.
And that's because Raheem Brock, your former teammate and a good friend of yours, hosted it.
Okay.
And was for charity.
So back to the Miami Celtics.
I just want to say this, and we can talk more about it later because I don't want to get into it now. We don't have the time. The show's almost over. But
we got plenty of time. We can go rogue. Show lasts as long as we want it to last. All right. If we want to give you an hour and 2 minutes, we'll give you an hour and 2 minutes.
Maybe the fans don't want an hour and 2 minutes.
Well, call in 347-480-1724. We want to know.
And I say that because maybe they want an hour and 15.
You want this show
maybe they want 2 hours.
2 hours.
I think we should finish the show in Central Park.
2 hours is too long.
We should finish the show in Central Park.
All right. Well, get your stuff and I'll meet you there.
Apparently, Artie just said it's pouring out, so that's not going to happen.
There goes that idea.
There goes that idea. Electronics and rain don't do very well. But okay, here's the thing: the Celtics and the Bulls, the Celtics and the Heat rather, will be a really, really phenomenal series in my mind. I think that the Celtics are a very good team, and this series really could go either way. But I think that the Celtics will get knocked off by the Miami Heat. And I think the Miami Heat are a playoff team. They're built for the playoffs. And I heard what Ryan Clark said. I hear what you say. And certainly the Celtics have a lot of experience. But I think that the Heat are just going to turn it on. And the big three that they have are going to take control of this and make it happen. And if they don't this year, then it's certainly going to happen.
Now it's
No.
if they don't this year. That's what all the fans are going to be saying in a couple weeks after they lose to the Celtics.
What I was going to say is it's certainly going to be a while before they get back into this position because the East is starting to look really crowded. You will have a much better New York Knicks team next year. I think that they got Chauncey signed up, and I think he'll be a backup to maybe CP3.
I don't think they're going to go after CP3.
Well,
now.
or somebody good, right?
I think CP3 and Howard are going to end up together somehow.
Well, we'll see, but the Knicks definitely need a point guard. But they'll also have time to gel and regroup.
You got the Chicago Bulls.
You'll have the Bulls. You'll have the Celtics will still be good, and you have all these other young teams that are coming on. So I think that the Heat, if they want to win, they want to get that first championship under their belt, and they want to keep winning. This has got to be their year.
Well, if you look
and they better make sure it happens.
If you look at last night's game, the Miami-Philly game, you realize that the Miami Heat, their big three, aren't as strong as everybody really thought. LeBron was very frustrated throughout that game. He only ended up with 16 points, and they really wouldn't have won that game without Chalmers 20 off the bench.
If you're LeBron, how much pressure do you feel because you're not living up to your hype right now, and it seems like you are not the guy that – you're not the guy who can control the game. You had to go to the Heat with two other players to maybe win a championship. You can't carry a team. You're surely not a leader. And in addition to that, you don't want the ball at the last seconds of the game.
Mike,
Kobe is the best player in the game, right?
This is the part of the show we call Bron bashing. You're just bad. He's not a leader.
No, I'm just asking how much pressure do you have if you're LeBron?
He's a leader. He's a leader. He's not a leader to Mike, obviously. He's just Bron bashing.
The leader takes the team, puts them on his shoulder, and wins.
This is your big three.
I still think they're playoff built.
Well, look at the matchups. Look at the matchups. You got Ray Allen and D Wade, right?
Yeah.
Paul Pierce, LeBron.
Yeah.
And then Bosh and Garnett.
Yeah.
And then Rondo and Bibby.
No, the Celtics are a really good team, and
the Celtics have a big four.
They do. They have they have great players, and Garnett is amazing. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm asking about LeBron.
I'm not getting into the Bron bashing with you, all right? Bron's a good player. He's one of the top players in the NBA.
But he's not the best. He's supposed to be the best. When's he going to be the best?
No, he's not.
When is he going to be the best?
No, he's not the best.
When is he going to be He's King James.
He may never be the best.
That's what I wanted to hear. He will never be the best. Thank you.
May never.
He needs those other players around him, and he knows it.
Everybody needed players around him. What best player?
But you can take Kobe.
You got Magic,
hold on a second.
James Worthy, as well as Jabbar. You got Jordan, Pippen,
but
and who you want to throw in? Paxson,
that's the thing.
Paxson, B.J. Armstrong, and Steve Kerr, all equal one more player.
You
got Kobe and Shaq. You got Kobe and all the guys that got out there now.
But that's the thing. All the guys is that Kobe. You can interchange guys. Jordan, you could interchange guys. Magic, you could interchange guys, and they could still win. And when they needed to, they could pull that team on their shoulders and take control of the game and win themselves, basically. And you know what?
I will agree with you on this, Mike.
Yeah, and LeBron does not have that killer instinct.
No, he's not the guy. He has it in his mind, but it doesn't.
It's not translating.
It doesn't translate through to his shot, and at the end of the game, he doesn't have the clutch.
Well, he should be to practice early. He should be to practice early, and he should stay late.
You can't practice the clutch shots in the fourth quarter. You can't practice those pressure, those game pressure situations.
You got
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Jordan.
You got
I used to do that.
You were good at it. I've seen you do it.
No, I mean I wasn't. I'm no NBA good.
No, but you know what? The point is,
he's a great player, but he does not have the clutch.
Maybe he needs to talk to A-Rod. A-Rod didn't have that clutch.
He does not have the clutch of the greatest players.
And then A-Rod found it.
Mike is trying to compare him to.
That's what I'm saying. Well, I'm trying to compare him. Everybody has compared him to that. He's compared himself to that.
Well,
he's
his
put himself
numbers,
on a pedestal.
You know my line. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. LeBron's numbers are up there with the greatest.
I care about rings, baby, not numbers.
I'm just telling you. I'm just
rings.
telling you. So if he wins rings, no matter who he's with, he's going to be considered one of the greatest.
You got to have rings. It's all about winning.
He'll get the rings eventually.
It's all about winning. Tanya Harding's mom told her that from the very beginning. It's all about winning.
At least one ring before his career is over.
Come on, I pulled that one out of the bag. I don't even get a chuckle.
No, hopefully the fans like it.
It's a long day. It's going to be a long day. You're just hunkered down.
17-24. If you like Mike's last joke about
call the number anyway.
Tanya Harding.
All right, listen. The NFL draft is tonight, and we've got a special show tomorrow for you guys, and a special show tonight. We've got the NFL draft show. It's the fan and player show, and that's going to be live from here. And we're going to have a lot of special guests on that. So you got to tune in 8 p.m. on sports.com and ustream.tv. In addition to that, we've got Rally Notes tonight at 7 p.m. with Greg Dorman. And then, Artie, we've got a special show tomorrow. You want to tell the viewers about that? Artie from the control room is going to chime in and tell us a little bit about our special episode tomorrow of Sports Daily, which is going to be a lot of fun. We kind of gave the viewers a preview yesterday with that Bentley ride, I think.
Well, it's the full
I don't
Bentley
think Artie's
ride.
ready to chime in.
He's chiming in. He's talking.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
It is the full Bentley ride from Bentley.
Obviously, he's talking.
You don't hear him?
2000.
He doesn't hear you. Artie, are you talking into the right mic?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe D's deaf or something. I'll turn this thing up. Now maybe he'll hear you. So, Artie, what's the deal? Explain this to the viewers.
Well, the other day we took out the 2012 Continental GT Bentley, so we got to see a little preview yesterday, and then tomorrow you'll be able to see the full show.
So basically, you took all the outtakes, all the stuff that hit the cutting room floor that didn't make the piece, are like conversations in the car, all sorts of the antics that happen, and the real story behind putting the story together, and you put that together and made it a show.
Right.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that myself. I hear you did a good job. I hear it's very funny, and I'm excited. Now, what did you think of the Bentley? Did you like it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even a car person, but it was pretty awesome.
Artie, I'm not a car person either.
Artie didn't drive it. You know why?
I like nice cars.
He left his license at home.
Artie never brings his license. Artie might be a wanted man, so we're going to stop saying his real name on air because he never carries ID, and usually if you're wanted or you have a warrant out for your arrest, you don't want to get put in jail.
We should have. His real name's Arthur. We should have made a play with Arthur and the movie Arthur and the Bentley.
It's too late. We got to go. So join us tonight, NFL Draft.
8 p.m.
8 p.m.
here from our studio at sports.com at the sports headquarters on ustream.tv and sports.com. It'll be a great show. Many guests in studio and on the phone. And in addition to that, we've got Rally Notes at 7 p.m. That's right before the draft show. The draft show is going to be a long show, take you through it. We'll take your calls as well. You can talk to our guests, and you can Twitter us and do all sorts of other things.
If you have any questions for Dwight Freeney, Raheem Brock, Jeff Charleston from New Orleans Saints,
I think Jarvis Green's going to call.
Jarvis Green.
And some more.
And, we'll have, who knows how many guests we'll have.
Oh, Peter Schwartz and
Peter Schwartz from Schwartz on Sports.
And
we're going to have a lot of guests tonight.
Jared Zwirling is going to call in from the draft floor at Radio City.
A lot of guests on this draft show tonight. So tune in 8 o'clock. Tune in to Rally Notes 7 o'clock. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Sports Daily. Michael Artsis, Darrell, Reid. We're out of here.